I'm Mike, our group's prover for the argument in favor of school-wide positive behavior supports. The evidence base in support of school-wide positive behavior supports is pretty solid, but it is also varied, and in some cases the results are even mixed or inconclusive. And that's because school-wide positive behavior supports are not just one thing, they can be many different things. There are the different tiers. Interventions are custom targeted to specific problem areas, so what they look like from school to school can vary quite a bit. They're often implemented with varying degrees of fidelity as well, which affects outcomes. Horner, Sugai, and Anderson conducted a study in order to establish guidelines with which to assess school-wide positive behavior supports programs. The authors point out that given the variation in the size, scope, breadth, and focus of these school-wide positive behavior supports, the evidence base is unwieldy at best. And such variability in the results, they argue, can leave the evidence base somewhat vulnerable to criticism from opponents. Solomon, Klein, Hintz, Cressy, and Peller sought to remedy this by systematically and quantitatively analyzing the results of several school-wide positive behavior supports studies in an attempt to generalize the success of these programs across the board. Similar to Solomon et al., the authors argue that while there's an abundance of support at the local level, that's right, such support might easily be dismissed as anecdotal. So in a meta-analysis, they analyzed 20 independent studies and found that in general, school-wide positive behavior supports are indeed moderately effective in reducing problem behavior. Interestingly, they also found the effects of the interventions were most pronounced in settings where there was substantial room for improvement, such as in schools in more urban settings, or in environments within schools that are more unstructured, yes, like in lunchrooms, passing periods, recess, where there tends to be more problem behaviors. In other words, school-wide positive behavior supports are ideal for making improvements where improvements are needed most. One of the questions posed by our group by Dr. Kim had to do with the perspectives of stakeholders within the school, such as teachers. And one measure that answers this question fairly well is teacher efficacy. Teacher efficacy refers to how effective teachers believe themselves to be in motivating and educating all students, including the challenging ones. According to Caprara, Barbarinelli, Stecca, and Malone, teacher efficacy as an independent variable can make a huge difference in student outcomes. On the dependent variable side, in a study by Kelm and McIntosh, teacher efficacy in schools implementing school-wide positive behavior supports with a high degree of fidelity was significantly greater than it was in schools with no such programs. What's compelling about this is that this runs counter to the argument that without being able to send kids to the office or suspend them, teachers can't teach because they'd have no effective control over their classrooms. Well, according to the teachers themselves, this is clearly not the case. And now for some applicable ABA compliance codes and core ethical principles. I'm going to put up this PowerPoint. By the way, another question posed to our group by Dr. Kim had to do with outcomes. Some of these will answer that, at least from the positive behavior support side of the argument. So do no harm. Harm is minimized through proper identification and treatment of the actual problems contributing to the behaviors. Regarding autonomy, students are treated in terms of their potential for success in independent living rather than the problems they present to the school. School-wide positive behavior supports ensures the right people benefit, not just those who might want to be rid of problem behaviors. In identifying and treating the true sources of the problem behaviors and their maintaining contingencies, school-wide positive behavior supports ensure we are being just. We're according dignity by recognizing the diversity of the students and their abilities and seeking to bring students in rather than cast them out into some abyss. And in considering all the factors contributing to behavior, we're ensuring everyone involved is accepting their part in it. Most importantly, we're avoiding punishing individual students for environmental conditions that might be contributing to problem behavior. this slide right here. I had the wrong slide up. Great. Here's the right slide. Here, under the applicable compliance code, school-wide positive behavior supports are evidence-based, which ensures Code 1.01. They uphold the right to a free and appropriate education to all students to the greatest extent possible. That's 2.05. They're behavior analytic. I think that's self-evident. They're a system-wide intervention, so environmental conditions are definitely a major part of the assessment and the treatment. Least restrictive procedures are ensured to the greatest extent possible. And again, the intent is to keep the kids in, not push them out, like exclusionary practices tend to do. Exclusionary practices, by the way, even though sometimes warranted, are actually highly restrictive. School-wide positive behavior supports are designed to reinforce healthy replacement behaviors and not reinforce the wrong behaviors like exclusionary practices often do, especially when it comes to behaviors that are escape maintained. And finally, school-wide positive behavior supports, if implemented with a high degree of fidelity, will systematically remove the kind of bias from decision-making processes and interventions that often adversely affect people who are already disadvantaged. Okay, so that's it for me. And now, here is Dan. Dan?